Mine. I'm delighted for the second time to be hosting the Hustings for the ward in which you all live and in which I live as well, so it's a great honour to be here. We're going to be together for about an hour and a half this evening. We'll have a break halfway through for some tea and coffee and a vote. That's not to say we want you to vote in the election, but we've got a few questions that we would like you to answer. So there's a voting bank which we'd like you to use during the break. You'll see it's all very straightforward. So yes, a few intros to begin with, and then we'll have some questions. Questions have been submitted by many residents, so thank you very much for that. But if you have other questions, and we hope you have other questions as well, we will open up the floor so that you can ask the candidates some questions. Obviously, I'm going to ask you to be respectful and polite, as we all are. It's politics, and I know politics gets heated, particularly in the current scenarios that we find ourselves in, but this is a polite space and a respectful one, so keep it that way, if we could, please. I would also ask that your questions are relatively brief and to the point. It's a time for questions and not political statements, so questions are fine, and that would be very good. So, what's happening? Just a few words from me about the context here. This is, as we know, Cambridge City Council elections. They're taking place on the 7th of May. And Cambridge uses a by-third system, so roughly 1/3 of the seats are contested each year. One of Queen Edith's 3 city council seats is up for election. And this is probably, I was just having a conversation about this, probably the final time we'll vote for the city council, because the councils are going to be changed and become unitary authorities quite soon. I don't think it's totally decided exactly how that's going to happen and exactly when, but we expect next year. We are very pleased that we have, so the candidates, I should say, there are 5 candidates for this ward standing this time. Maruf Ahmed for Labour, Colin Bedson for Reform, Magnus Burt for Conservative, Shane Mitchell for Green, and Amanda Taylor for the Liberal Democrats. Now, all 5 candidates were invited to attend tonight, and the 3 candidates you see before us are those who are attending. So, Maruf Ahmed for Labour, Amanda Taylor for the Liberal Democrats, and Shane Mitchell for the Greens. Thank you very much for attending and for your statements on the website. Just a few words to avoid any confusion, because we have the City Council and the County Council, of course. Now, Queen Edith has 3 City Councillors. We're also represented by a County Councillor. Those are entirely different roles. Tonight's candidates are standing for the City Council. And City Councillors are responsible for housing, planning, waste and recycling, parks, local services, and community development. So the County Council is not what we're looking at here tonight, so other issues, and possibly that niggling one, but which we might come to, of potholes, technically speaking, is not part of the remit of the City Council. But let's have a look and see how that goes. So, I think what I'd like to do now, because I've talked too much already, but we'll come back to me, I'm afraid, is, in a moment, is to get the 3 candidates who are here to give us an initial comment about who they are and what got them into politics and what we need to know about them. But I've asked them to be brief, just a couple of minutes each, and for them and for you, I'm going to be quite strict on timing. So, they've drawn lots. We've had our first election tonight, and the first person to speak will be Maruf. So, Maruf, if you'd like to begin, what got you into politics? What do we need to know about you in a couple of minutes? Yeah. Grab on the microphone.
Thank you, everyone. First of all, big thanks to Queen Edith Community Forum for organizing this beautiful event. And of course, thank you every single one of you for coming today. My name is Maruf Ahmed. I'm a Labour councillor candidate and care deeply about our community. Through my work with the community, food bank and local charities, I have supported families, young people and older residents, listening to what matters most of you. I'm especially proud of helping raise funds for the Cambridge Cancer Research Hospital, supporting life-saving research and care that touch so many of us. My priorities are simple: stronger communities, tackling inequality, supporting local facilities, and creating safe and welcoming space. Of course, home for local people, because everyone deserves a secure place to live, especially our next generation. We have to build affordable house. I believe if we don't do anything now, then it will be really difficult for them to buy a house, especially in Cambridge. Because I can imagine, as you can imagine, the house price is too expensive. So I don't believe my child can afford to live in Cambridge. This is what we have to stop it. Make sure they grow up in Cambridge, they are living in Cambridge. Safer road. Of course, we're not talking about pothole, but then I believe pothole is part of us as well, because as a councillor, everything matters locally. So, of course, I'll try to work hard, make sure fixing potholes and improving transport to make daily life easier. I believe that will help reduce traffic in Cambridge, especially as we all know how bad the traffic in Cambridge, especially in Queen Edith area, because we have a big hospital in Queen Edith. I want to be a visible, approachable councillor who listen and deliver practical solutions. From supporting young people through sports, I believe sports can bring everybody together. I'm a sports person. I play football, I play cricket, I also play badminton as well. Helping older residents stay connected. I believe we always think about our older generation because they have done so much for us. We have to give something back to them. And especially tackling antisocial behavior. I'll work with you to get result. I'm committed to making sure your voice are heard in every decision that affects our community. I ask for your support so together we can build a safer, fairer, and stronger Queen Edith. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maruf, for Labour. Just about keeping to time, so well done. And the second person to draw the number after the lot was Amanda Taylor for the Liberal Democrats. So Amanda, I think you've got a microphone there. You might just need to push it and switch it on. If you would like, I'll give you 2.5 minutes, to be fair, which is exactly what your colleague had, to answer that similar sort of question. What got you into politics? What do we need to know about you?
Thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
That's great. May I add my thanks to the Queen Edith Community Forum for putting on the Hustings, and also for the work that you do for the community all year round. It's not just this election time. It's great to see so many people here. How did I get into politics? Well, it was a very long time ago, but my father was a Liberal councillor in Leeds in the 1970s. And I got roped into delivering leaflets for him. That's what started it off. He took me along to Leeds City Council, which inspired me, and I could see the difference that community politics made, working with local people in the community. Then joined the Liberal Party and the Social and Liberal Democrats, and here I am. And I've been councillor in Queen Edith before, so they knew on the city and the county councils. And I care about Queen Edith's. It's not just somewhere that I campaign, but it's where I live. I first moved here in about 1994, had my son here, brought my son up, so I know the local schools, work locally, and also enjoy being involved in the local library, and I'm a member of this church. So I suppose I experience the same transport problems and issues as everybody else. In Cambridge, we've had 12 years of a Labour council now, and what we're hearing really is that some of our basic services are not quite what they ought to be, things like cuts to public toilets and street cleaning services. And there's also a threat from the government to take away our local planning powers as council. It's very important that local people have the say on what happens locally. So if I'm re-elected, then I will concentrate on making sure those local services work for local people. But being a councillor is not just sitting in the Guildhall or making speeches. It's about what happens here in Queen Edith, working with local people on the issues that matter, like road safety, cycling improvements, parking schemes, sorting out housing repairs. That's always been the most rewarding part of the job for me. I would say it's been an honour to represent Queen Edith before, and if you re-elect me, then I would be greatly honoured to carry on in the future.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you to keeping to time. We'll get into policy, obviously, in the questions as we go, so don't feel you have to get your policy ideas out in the first statement. So, next on to Shane Mitchell for the Greens. Similar question to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you need to know about you and how to get into politics?
Hello, can you hear me okay? Yeah? Yes, super. Hello, I'm Shane Mitchell and I'm the Green Party candidate. How did I get to politics? I think I tend to think everything's political. Rather sweetly, like Amanda. It was probably a large part of it was my father. I come from Bedfordshire, from a village in Bedfordshire. And when I was a child, my father was on the parish council, which met once a month, and occasionally, just to avoid trying to do homework and also because it was interesting, I would go along with my father and sit listening to planning applications, street sweeping, disagreements, how you resolve disagreements, different interests, how you try and resolve that. And the other thing, thinking about it, is that at that time, which would have been around 1970 or so, there was a huge government plan to build what was then called London's third airport. And one of the candidates was a village called Thurley, which was quite close to where we lived. So there was a big campaign, Bara, Bedford against regional airport, which again my father was involved in. And again, that was very interesting, door knocking, meetings, how you organise, hearing from people, different views. Going back to the Green Party, where am I standing? There's an old saying, not that old, think globally, act locally. And there were two things I've been thinking about a lot the past week. One was a report on the Today programme on Radio 4 at the ungodly hour of about 6:30 in the morning. And it's a report, a recent scientific report, about the Gulf Stream in the North Atlantic in the context of climate breakdown and the climate emergency. And scientists have known since about 1961 that with global heating and using fossil fuels, that there was a risk that the Gulf Stream will simply change course and stop. So Northern Europe and us would be catapulted into a total change of climate. I gather that in Scotland there would be 3 months.
About 15 seconds.
Okay, yeah. Basically it would be minus 20 centigrade for about 2 or 3 months of the year. That, I think, has to lie behind everything we do and the City Council does. It has to inform everything. We've got 6 Green Party councillors in Cambridge already. It would be great to have more. So I urge you to vote, which obviously you're going to, and it would be great if you voted Green. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. So some opening thoughts to set us off. Just some ideas that I've been sort of researching and think might be on your minds, but there's plenty more, I'm sure. So some of the things that probably the City Council and we need to be thinking about in a local context at the moment, in no particular order, might be the Cambridge Market redevelopment, which is up for discussion in June, the cycling infrastructure, particularly Queen Edith's Way, for example, the Cambridge Biomedical Campus, which is, as we know, is one of the largest centres of medical research and employment in the area, and it's right on our doorstep, brings lots of opportunities and lots of pressures. The Southern Fringe housing development, I suppose not unrelated to that, with similar opportunities and pressures, and housing and planning in general, and the local environment and community services. That's a short list from my sort of brainstorming with myself, but I'm sure you've got many other ideas as well. But now I'd like to turn to what we've done is curate some of the questions that we received from you. Thank you again for that. And sort of put them into a logical order, I hope. So I'm going to go around and ask each of the candidates, kicking off with the first question. And I'll probably open it up a little bit as we go along as well. So as you think about what you hear and some of the ideas that I've just put forward or some that you may have, please have a think about formulating your questions as you have them. So let's move to question 1, which I'm not going to say who the questions came from, that would be unfair, but anyway, this is from a local resident. What do you see as the biggest challenge to the community flourishing in Queen Edith? And if elected, what would you do to mitigate it? So the biggest challenge for our community here in Queen Edith's, and what would you do to mitigate that? Okay, for this round I'm going to take the same order I think as we started with. So Marif, if you'd like to kick us off with that one. A little unfair because you've had far less time to think about it, but I'll mix and match, so the pressure will be on everybody in the same way. So that question again, the biggest challenge that we face here in this community, and what, as a city councillor, you could do to mitigate it.
Thank you very much. I think, in my opinion, the biggest issue here is the traffic. Because, of course, you have a road closure and newly done work at Edinburgh roundabout, which caused build too much traffic in this area, and especially the Edinburghs, of course, a lot of people trying to park their car just on many of the off street, so which has actually blocked residents' driveways and a parking space as well. And of course, what I believe is improving traffic system is we have to improve the transport. We have to make sure we have better bus system and we have bus going on time, especially the traffic. This is the thing we have to worry about. And of course, there's lots of other issues. I'm not just talking about the traffic, because there are lots of other issues as well. So if we start concentrating on one, especially the traffic, if we can concentrate on, I'm sure we can have a better community. And
okay, do you want to pass the microphone?
Thank you. I've always found Queen Edith a great place to live with a flourishing local community. But I do have concerns that it's not that affordable place for people to continue in, and particularly concerned with the fact that young people don't have the opportunity to stay in the local area because it's so difficult to find affordable housing. Really, to have jobs near where you live and local facilities is good because you can all use the same local facilities. We have great facilities in this area. We have very good schools, local library, which serves the whole community, community centres as well. It's really important that the council and local councils support those community facilities where we can all meet and do what they can about the transport difficulties we all face in getting to and fro from work or to see family and friends.
Would you rather I stood up, or can you hear me okay sitting?
Whatever you like.
Okay. I'm torn between housing and traffic. I'll talk about traffic, I think. Cambridge is so blighted by traffic, as are most towns. There's this image that we're this marvellous cycle-friendly town, which is, there's a bit of truth in it, but it's still, I still find it scary cycling around, and I often find it very scary being a pedestrian with, unfortunately some people zooming along the pavement on bikes. I would love to see a 20-mile-an-hour limit throughout Cambridge City. We've got it on a few of the, on quite a lot of the back roads and the side streets, which is just fantastic. But I would really like to see that throughout the city. They've done it in Wales. I was in Llandudno last year, visiting my husband's cousin, and walking through the town, I thought, oh, this feels so serene, calm, and sort of not scary. And I realise it's because cars are just not going fast. You're not frightened crossing the road. You're not frightened crossing side roads. And that would have a tremendous knock-on effect of making it easier, much easier and safer for people to do what they call active travel, which is walking and cycling. I think that's the main thing I should like to see.
Thank you very much. Quite a lot of agreement there, it seems, on what the big challenge is. I wonder if, turning to you, the audience, whether what you've just heard reflects what you think is the biggest challenge, and whether you'd want to ask any further detailed questions about what you've just heard. So let me bring the microphone. Perhaps if you can introduce yourself when I give you the microphone with your name and if any affiliation, if you want to.
I'm Fiona Goodwill. I'm treasurer of the Queen Edith Community Forum. Of course, transport is an enormous problem, but the bigger problem coming along the road very fast is the local plan and the development corporation, and that I see as being an overriding question for councillors.
Okay, anybody else want to add to that? Because we might gather a few. Yes, thank you.
My name's Nick Deshaw. I live here in Queen.
You need to speak right, sorry, the other way.
A big issue for me, or for the next generation, is going to be the community spirit. If all the young children can't stay here and live and grow up with young families, they'll move out. We'll gradually become older and more decrepit. What we need here is more active, younger people. And I think one of Maru's things is to get sports organised. So what would the panel like to think about that?
Okay, so we've had the development plan and making us less decrepit. Sorry, community spirit. Anybody else want to comment on what this is the big challenge?
No, I thought it was going to be how it's all going to be financed, with you being crushed more and more by central government. And I really have a big question there, because I don't understand how it works, how everything's going to stretch.
Thank you. We'll take one more, yes.
That's right, thank you. I'm Ibrahim from the Kareem Foundation. We're a Cambridge-based charity that provides food, fuel and emergency support to locals in financial difficulty. I'm here today because what we're aware of in the last few years and how we've been supporting people, we know that many residents across Cambridge are struggling with food and fuel poverty due to the rising cost of living, and we've also helped many residents in the Queen Edith ward as well. So my question to the candidates today is around how would you work with communities and local organisations to identify those who are falling through the gaps? What actions would you take to make a tangible difference in their lives? And crucially, how would you hold the council accountable on alleviating food and fuel poverty?
Thank you. Some big questions there. So we've had a question about the development plan and how that's coming along and the impact that could have, about community spirit, encouraging people to live active lives and remain comfortable in this ward. A question about, is there enough money to finance all of this? And then quite a specific set of questions on food and fuel poverty, identifying those in need and what you can do to help those and make sure there is also, again, I guess, enough financing in the system to alleviate those problems. That's quite a list, but hopefully you've been keeping a list, and if you want to tackle some or all of those, that would be great. Let's go down the line the other way. So Shane, if I can start with you, feel free to pick some or all or one or two of those as you feel capable to answer and you want to answer.
Yes, development. I find that this whole supposed Greater Cambridge Development Corporation deeply worrying. It's profoundly undemocratic. It's simply top-down central government telling us what we need to be doing, and central government at the moment appears to be completely in hock to solely what they think of as economic development to expense of absolutely everything else. Doesn't actually, well, it actually means sort of healthy society, health, things like free school meals, people living in better conditions. It's not much point having a great economic boom, which we're not going to get anyway, if people aren't living decently. I mean, as I was saying, I come from Bedfordshire, and I'm old enough to remember when they were starting to build Milton Keynes. It was the Milton Keynes Development Corporation, which was the same idea, that they basically just do what they want. And there were lots of fantastic things about Milton Keynes, but there was no Milton Keynes Council for a long, long time. There was a great democratic deficit there. I'm not entirely sure how we fight this proposed development corporation, but I do think we very much need to. Otherwise, it's just going to be a sort of the Cambridge equivalent of Mr. Trump saying, "Build, baby, build," and we'll get nothing else. I think I've probably had my 2 pence worth, so I'll pass the mic on.
Thank you. I too am extremely concerned about the Development Corporation proposals with a central body not elected being responsible for taking planning decisions about our development and number of new houses and jobs in the area. I don't think that this is at all necessary for Cambridge, and it would be South Cambridgeshire as well. We are being required to provide several thousand new homes in the area. That's accepted. The area needs to grow to provide housing for future residents, as we've covered earlier. But the council is already doing that. I mean, the city council has already given permission for 37,000 new homes in the greater area. That's about half the number that the government requires. So, really don't see that there is any case for intervention for central government to assume these powers. It's crucial that local people make the decisions about what's built in the area. Local councillors representing local people, the people in Cambridge, know best rather than bureaucrats in Whitehall. Where the Development Corporation can help us is in things like pushing for the infrastructure that we need to provide for all the new houses, such as doctor surgeries, transport links, and more water supplies. Not to take over planning there. The other question was about community spirit and providing things especially for young people to do. The City Council provides play spaces and parks and community centres which are where these activities can take place. So very important to keep those, to retain funding for them, publicise them so that people know what's available. The council has, sometimes, when I was on the council before, it was running play schemes for children during the school holidays on our recreation grounds, which is clearly a great way for the community to come together when they're not at school. I would say it's important that we keep these spaces safe for young people to use. So we need to have safe streets so they can get out to activities, and also control of things like antisocial behaviour in our parks so that they're safe places for young people to hang out. The question about fuel poverty, I think that comes back to our housing and planning in a way. We can ensure that new housing is built to good standards of energy efficiency so that it's not so expensive to heat those houses. The City Council also has an important role in provision of social housing. It seems to me to be a scandal that people are still having to complain about damp and mould in council properties, and repairs take a long time. Again, well insulated, well repaired houses again would be easier to heat for those who live in them. So I'll pass over to
Edith. Thank you very much, Amanda. So, Edith.
Thank you very much. First of all, what I believe is central government doesn't know anything about this area. So the decision is made by the councillor, because what I believe is every councillor has to speak up in council, because they are the people is making the decision. Because if central government is trying to build, like example, like 1,000 houses in this area, and of course it's positive things and negative things as well. So before they start building, before they approve the planning, my opinion is councillor have to do a survey in this area to make sure residents actually knows what's going on and they are approving it. If residents says, in my opinion, if residents says, of course, we don't want this because this is the reason we don't want this, I think public councillor should go to the shareholder and the council meeting and fight for this. Because it's not just affecting them, it's affecting everyone. What we have to, what I believe as a person, if I win, I'm not going to be there forever. I don't want to make a mess for the people. Then people suffer, then I leave. So whatever we do, we have to do for these people, and we need to make sure their voice are heard in every decision that affect their life. And when it comes to sports, of course, as I mentioned to you before, I'm a sports person, and I do lots of sports, and I'm involved with the football club, involved with the cricket club, involved with the badminton club as well. That's how I get lots of young people involved, because I believe nowadays everyone is busy with their PlayStation and the games. Actually, they're pretty much sitting in the home. They're not going out doing any physical activities, like they're not going to park and play football. This is what I'm planning to do for the people. This is what I've been doing for my community. This is what I want to do for the people. I believe this is doable, because if we can do this, if we can get them out, so then they can play, they can do some exercise, and they can get to know they can get to know their neighbors and others as well. And regarding the Colin Foundation, of course, maybe lots of you don't know, I am involved with a local charity. It's called we run Food Hub every Thursday in 8 Main Street. And of course, what I have seen in this ward, actually, of course, we have a very good food hub as well in this ward. And the things we do here is we charge £5. And of course, not everyone can go and get the food, and people, they have to have a pre-approved. But while we serve food, we get the same food from Cambridge Sustainable Group, like Queen Edith Food Hub does, but we don't charge any money. Same time, anyone from Cambridge doesn't mean that has to be from Arbery. They can go from Queen Edith or Chesterton or Trumpington. They can go in there by that time and they can get the food. Because I believe, because nowadays it's the time, actually everyone is suffering financially. And Colin Foundation is doing a brilliant job for the community. Of course, I believe council should do more for
Speed
you.
you up a bit. I'm going to have to try and finish you there. If you could just have one last sentence.
I'm sorry.
All right, okay. Thank you very much. I think we were getting the idea. Thank you very much. Great. Well, thanks very much for those questions as well from the floor, because that's very much what it's about. We don't want to just feed you. We want to hear what you think and what concerns you. So, and thank you, panel, for reacting to that. Let's move to another question that we had from a reader of the Forum News. This relates to Cambridge Market, which obviously not in our ward, but it's the market that we use. So the redevelopment of the market is due to be debated by the City Council in June. How would you, if you were councillor, reconcile traders' antipathy to the proposals with the council's desire to improve the site and reduce nighttime crime? I'll give that to you again. So how would you reconcile traders' antipathy to the proposals with the council's desire to improve the site and reduce nighttime crime? A very, very old market, a very popular market, but its future is up for debate and the way it will change. So some antipathy from traders to the council's proposals, who want to improve it and in their view, and reduce nighttime crime. How do we square that circle? Amanda Taylor, Dems, I'm going to begin with you this time, if I may.
Thank you. market's one of the jewels in the crown of Cambridge. It's been there even longer than the university, and I enjoy shopping there myself. Probably been going to the market since before I even came to live here. When I was on executive councillor at the City Council, I did have responsibility for the market amongst my responsibilities, and so got chatting to quite a lot of the market traders. And I do have, I mean, the market does not have as good occupancy as it used to do, and that is obviously a strong concern. But I believe that it's really important that in seeking to expand evening use or different use of the market, we don't take away the things that make it so special by making life difficult to trade for the traditional market traders selling fruit and veg, food and everyday essentials. I'm not convinced that events in the market square at night time are really going to be that much of a hit, because it's not really a very welcoming space. So I think it's something that if elected I would be looking at with the proposals. It's essential that the current market traders are comfortable with the stalls, and that any new arrangement is not making it difficult for any particular group of people to carry on trading.
Shane?
Thank you. Like Amanda, I'm very fond of Cambridge Market. I find it's unbelievable that we actually have a market every day of the week in the marketplace. I can't think of any other market town which has that, and only once a week or twice a week. When I was a teenager and I used coming from Bedford, I would come over sometimes for the day in school holidays, and I used to think, isn't this marvellous? Every time I come to Cambridge I seem to hit market day. And I only later realised that it was open every day. I don't really understand this plan to produce a metamorphosis and completely transform Cambridge Market. I mean, to me, it works as it is. And I think we risk, just as others were saying, just driving out the market traders already have quite a tough time as it is, trying to get in with their vans to set up in the morning, trying to get back in the afternoon with their vans, having to park sort of quite a long way away and so on. And I would worry that if it could just end up being a rather sort of twee, sort of crafty knick-knack, lots of food store, street food markets, not really not of the traditional sort of really useful, wonderful stores that we've got. Sorry, that made an awful noise. I'd agree too that I just can't see these ideas for having a kind of piazza space, a kind of continental square that all sorts of things happen in the evening and performances or whatever. It's just not that sort of space. It's not big enough. It's too confined, too crowded with stuff. And I also think we have to remember a lot of folk live around there. There's students in college buildings right on the marketplace. There's people going through, do they really want that sort of noise late into the evening? So I've got big reservations about it.
Thank you, Marie. A few words on the market. You've got this wonderful booming voice. Everybody else, I'm saying to keep your microphone very close to your mouth. I think for you, I might say not quite so close. I mean that carefully.
Thank you. Well, what I believe is it's not actually up to me what I think about Market Square. I believe it's what people think. Because as a councillor, I believe, of course, councillor vote for this, but then councillor represent the people. So of course, I believe before a councillor vote on any of these things, which actually going to change the whole city. Like example, I'm saying this is the heart of Cambridge. This is represent Cambridge. This is what I believe, because when I have a guest come to Cambridge, I take them there. Of course, it's in my heart. But then, as I say, I can't make a decision on this, and I can't say anything about it, because what I believe, as I said, of course, councillor, they have to do a survey of this to know what actually people want. If majority people, the whole Cambridge resident thinks, okay, yeah, we need that change because we're having some issues, then of course it's a benefit for the community, it's a good thing for Cambridge. But if people think, of course, the issue you are saying is a crime or something happening at night, we know this. So why don't we have more police patrol there? If more police patrolling there, that means it's a less crime. If we know this is things happening there, we can stop it easily. So I don't believe this is an excuse. I don't know what's actually going on in there because I don't know much about, if I'm being honest with you. I don't want to lie to you. I don't know what the planning is and what councillor is thinking about it. Of course, they have voted on this. I believe they have talked to every resident. They have to talk to their local people because, as I said, that affects whole Cambridge.
Okay, thank you very much. We're being heckled by the evening birds, but they're obviously wanting to join in the debate, which is great. Everyone welcome. I'm going to take one more question. I'm going to do one more question before we break for some tea and coffee. Again, submitted by a reader to the news bulletin. Did you want to talk about what you've just heard? Okay. In that case, I'll break my own rule and I'll give you the microphone first for a comment. If you can have a question about what you've just heard about the market. Yeah, okay. If you'd introduce yourself.
I'm Martin. I've been going down the market for years and years. It's a lovely place. Shelley's, everybody knows it. They live in the area and they have a market stall down there. The cafe, superb. The market in city centre, moving forwards, will be decided by the majority. But have the councillors thought about supporting a local market? If you go to Milnall...
In the ward?
Yeah, if you go to Milnall, go to Newmarket, they have a market one day a week, there's local providers, good value kit, and you get used to people down there. So, just off the top of my head, Wolfston Way, it's got a nice little area there. You could have a market on a Wednesday. It'd be something that you could support locally, community-based. You get people down there. My sister used to work on the market in town as a hairdresser. She used to give free haircuts to people. So it's something you could do. Support a local market.
Okay, interesting thought. A quick round of answers on that. A local market in the ward. Is that feasible? Anybody any thoughts on it? Can we afford it? But yeah, away you go.
I think it would be a fantastic idea. Chance for local people to buy local produce. We haven't actually got that many food shops in Queen Edith. We used to have a greengrocer and a butcher's, and a baker's and a cake shop, and most of them have gone. So it would be good to have a local market, introduce people round here to some of the things that are available in the city centre.
Amanda, you've been a councillor, so is it that straightforward to propose a market and it all happens, or is there a lot of bureaucracy and hurdles that we have to get through first?
It has been looked at before, and there were some bureaucratic hurdles about how the area is licensed and street trading things, because there's some rules that apply to the city centre which don't apply outside. And we've had problems like that with fast food purveyors because the rules are different out of town to what they are in the city centre. But I do think it is an idea that's worth exploring.
Shane?
I think that's a brilliant idea. And I think that's something that happens in quite a few places around the country. I can imagine there'll be lots of red tape, but red tape is never insurmountable. I remember years ago in Arjuna on Mill Road, there was Mr. Baker, the famous Mr. Baker, who used to sell fruit and veg on a Saturday morning there. And he'd ended up outside Arjuna because he'd tried setting up a stall in other places on Mill Road, but just got moved on and was given sanctuary, as it were, by Arjuna. But I'm sure the red tape can be untangled or whatever it is you do with red tape.
Okay, a few quick words, Maru, from you as well. Your thoughts? Does it sound like a nice idea?
Yeah, 100%, of course, I'll support it, and 100% support it. And if I can do anything, I'll do it. Of course, and if council says no, I will tell them yes, people want it, that has to be done, because I believe, like everyone is talking about stronger community, and this will build strong community in everywhere, especially if we try to do one market in Queen Edith, that's mean like we are building a stronger community.
Okay, we've got consensus politics going on here, which is great. Marvellous idea from the community as well. Well done. Like that very much. I think we're going to pause there briefly. I'd like you to do a couple of bits of homework during the 10 minutes that we're going to stop. One is just to have a little ponder on what you've heard, and also questions that you'd like to bring up in the second half. Secondly, we'd like you to vote.
Can we do that at the end?
Oh, we do that at the end?
Yep.
Okay.
Don't vote yet.
Yes, that's true. Good idea. Okay. In that case, 2 bits of homework. 1, to have a think about some questions, and 2, to have a quick drink. So let's move on to the next question that was submitted again to the forum. This relates to one of our favourite subjects in this ward, I'm sure, and that's cycling. So, what are your plans for cycling, councillors candidates? And will you support the extension of segregated cycle lanes on Queen Edith's Way and elsewhere in the ward? So, your plans for cycling. Will you support the extension of segregated cycle lanes on Queen Edith's Way and indeed elsewhere in the ward? And I suspect quite a lot of us in the room are cyclists, so something that we're all very passionate about, I'm sure. Maruf, I think it's time for you to be the first answer on this one, so if I can turn to you again. Will you support the extension of segregated cycle lanes on Queen Edith's Way and elsewhere across the ward?
Yes. Hello. Yes, I think it would be good actually if we have a cycle lane on every road, because that will make cyclists safer. The reason I'm saying that, of course, like when cars or any vehicles on the road, they're not driving like 5 miles or 10 miles an hour. Sometimes if it's an empty road, some of them put the foot down, so then they can hit a cyclist easily. So then that can affect massively. So that's why I always support, to having a cycle lane on every street.
I think I'm going to interpret the question a little bit, because it was about segregated cycling. So I'm wondering whether the person, and I have no idea whether the person is in the room, whether the person is thinking of the ramifications of that, and how, the cost. The separation may take away a little bit of room for pedestrians, potentially. I don't know whether that's what somebody was thinking. It could also impact on flora and fauna that are in the street, and so on. So I suspect it might be a little bit more than do we just want to have cycle lanes. As I say, I'm interpreting somewhat what the question said, but there are probably quite a lot of ramifications, and I wonder if that's part of what the question was about. But even if it wasn't, I'm just interested to sort of have your thoughts on that. So maybe if you just want to add an extra minute, but then I'll ask everybody for those thoughts as well.
I'll still say yes, because of course, as you said, it will take up some spaces. But then if you want to get something good, you have to give up something. So this is what I believe. Of course, then that way, of course, we have to narrow a road, like example, like driving wise, or probably pedestrian won't have enough spaces like they used to have. There's a cycle lane, but then everyone is on their lane. That's what I believe.
Great, thank you. Shane, I'm going to pass the microphone to you. I did spot that you cycled here this evening.
The fluorescent jacket was probably a bit of a giveaway. Yes, I would support them. I think I'm thinking about places in Cambridge where it seems to work. I mean, the Hills Road reconfiguration. I mean, I'd be interested to hear if people have got different views, but it seems to me that works very well. Decent space for cyclists, or decent space for pedestrians. The Histon Road one seems to work well. The new Milton Road one seems to work well. And I think what we all share is that they've given up this, thank goodness, they've given up this idea of a shared use footway, whatever you call it, which is for cyclists and for pedestrians, which is just intimidating and unpleasant if you're a pedestrian, because you can't hear somebody coming up behind you. Some people can be pretty thoughtless about how they come past you. It does need thought in that if you're going to have footway for pedestrians, then cycleway, and then the sort of main carriageway, you have to make sure that there's enough space for pedestrians and it's wide enough, and also clear markings to just try and make sure that cyclists stay on the actual cycleway. The other thing I would really urge is that in Milton Road, for example, where they've put in the whole reconfiguration, where I think they've missed a trick is that they have marked up the road as the bus lane. It just says bus lane, it doesn't say bus and cycle lane as it does everywhere else. And so in fact what I thought would happen was that the people who were just pootling around gently would go in the designated cycle lane, and the people who are commuting fast and whizzing up and down would carry on going in the road. But the rather unfortunate result is that absolutely nobody cycles in the actual road, even though it's a great deal safer. So I think that needs thought, just to make sure that cyclists still know they can ride in the road, and that drivers know that cyclists are perfectly entitled to go in the road. Because as somebody once said, they're the traffic as well, it's not just the most of traffic.
Thank you. Amanda, I know I've seen you many times on your bike up and down the streets in the ward and elsewhere, so obviously you're a keen cyclist and have some thoughts on this.
Thank you. Yes, I came here on my bike tonight as well, but I parked in a quiet place. Because I knew where it was. I've been involved in quite a lot of cycle schemes during my time as a councillor. The Hills Road Phase 1 and Phase 2 was one of them. That was a major project though, and as people have pointed out, you're talking about £2 or £3 million for a scheme like that. It's estimated it would probably be of the same order for Queen Edith's Way. Now, I would very much like to see a safer route on Queen Edith's Way, not least because we've got Netherhall School there and a lot of school students travelling on the road. The councils have looked at cycle lanes before, but due to Queen Edith's Way not being very wide, it's actually quite difficult to provide a decent segregated lane and leave enough space for pedestrians too. And I think that's really why the scheme was opposed by local residents, in fact, because it would have meant loss of verges. I know the council did commit to still looking at solutions for cycle safety on Queen Edith's Way. At present, as those of you who live on the road will know, it's dual-use cycling on the pavements. I think the other important thing is that, as well as having cycle lanes, the segregation is important so people know where they're going, and that means not just cyclists being segregated from cars, but on shared pedestrian cycling paths that it's clear who's going which way. That's something I think needs to be improved on the guided busway, which is our big local segregated cycleway. There's confusion between the two modes of transport, and I think that probably just sort of intensifies the antipathy that some people have towards different modes of transport. We need to have our own space.
So, your thought, I mean, you've outlined some of the main issues. Which direction are you leaning on this?
I very much support segregated cycleways, but the particular question was about Queen Edith's Way, so I just wanted to say we do need to do something, but proposals have been put in Queen Edith's Way, but sort of fallen by the wayside really because there's not enough physical space. You need 1.2, ideally about 1.5 metres width for a cycleway, really.
Okay, I wonder if people in the room have thoughts specifically on the cycling issue. I'll come with a microphone to you, so if I may. Remember to introduce yourself as well, please.
Hi, I'm Nigel Blackmore. I live locally. I've been a keen cyclist all my life. When I was in Kingston upon Thames, I used to ride the 13 miles to central London, near the Houses of Parliament, every day, backwards and forwards. So I've been through heavy traffic. I know about cycling. In the winter, I used to carry 2 front lights and 2 rear lights. Now, I want to complain about cyclists in Cambridge. If you travel at night, you should have a light on the rear of your bike and one at the front. And try and wear clothes that reflect somewhere. That doesn't happen. I drive around at night, I see so many cyclists who do not have lights, no one does anything. The police could make a bit of money by going out at night and charging every cyclist that doesn't have lights 50 quid.
So I'm going to extrapolate a question from that. Is there something that can be done in terms of enforcement on cyclists being properly illuminated at night? Is there something that the city councillors can do on that front? Probably tricky, but any thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is something that quite often comes up at local meetings, and as you probably know, police have local meetings to set priorities, and cycling without lights is one of the things that comes up very frequently. And the police do enforce, not as much as we would like, but they often go out and at sort of September or October time of year when the clocks change, and they offer free lights to cyclists. In fact.
Anybody else want to comment on that?
Two quick points on that. I think a lot of it's about education, actually. We've got a 24-year-old daughter, and it does really hit me that until people actually, I'm not saying everybody should learn to drive at all, but if you don't drive, it's not actually until you learn to drive and are driving that you realise just how invisible you are on a bike without lights. When you're on that bike without lights, you don't feel invisible. So, I think just education, we can all note posters, ads on the backs of buses, things like that. Point number two, unfortunately, the way some people drive, you can be lit up like a Christmas tree and you're still going to get hit. It's happened to a couple of people I know.
Did you want to add anything? You don't feel you have to, go ahead.
I don't have to say much. Just want to add something. It's all about education. Educating them as well. And also, I think what police can do is during the winter time they can make some short videos and they can post it on social media and on the local, on the local newspaper as well. Like not the videos, videos on social media, and they can do some sort of articles on a newspaper just to tell the residents how important it is to have those lights.
Okay, I'm going to. Do you want to? Have we got a quick? I'm very happy.
Comment, really.
Okay. Really, I'm looking for questions, but if it's a very quick one, I'll allow.
It's a question. I'll turn it into a question.
It's fine.
Yes, I'm just wondering whether there might be some data out of Addenbrook's A&E, because I often think, with regard to potholes as well, can we look at the people who end up in A&E having been fallen off their bikes, either being hit by a car or doing something stupid or falling into a pothole, and it could be that some stats would bring people up short and realise how dangerous it is. Sorry, that wasn't a question.
Very interesting point. Anybody got any comments on that before we move on? Actually, I'm going to move on to something that's not unrelated. Just so you know, I will open the floor for general questions for things that we haven't covered in a moment, but we're on a roll at the moment. I'm going to move on to a subject that technically these candidates will have no control over whatsoever, but it's one that we get lots of questions about. I think you can imagine where I'm going with this. Potholes. Now, as I will underline this again, this is not, roads is not a city council responsibility, that's a county council, but given that we are probably moving to a unitary authority, so everything will come under the control of one authority, it's not unreasonable for us to mention it, and as we've already suggested, it does have an impact on all our lives. And we all know stories where people have been negatively, to put it politely, impacted by potholes in our ward. So the question which came, and we took it knowing full well that it's not totally the area that you guys cover, but I'd be interested in your thoughts. The state of pavements and potholes around Queen Edith concerns many residents. As a city councillor, what could you reasonably do about this? Now, I'm not suggesting that you have the solutions or ways of sorting it out. But I wonder if you've got thoughts and what sort of pressure you might be able to bring to bear, if you feel indeed that is something that you could tackle. So, Maruf, do you want to start with that?
Well, pothole is the biggest problem issue in Cambridge, not just on the Queen Edith. That's why probably I'm not sure if we're aware of this. I did a demonstration on this proper because a lot of people said this is a big issue, but then I spoke to councillor. They said some of the residents says, councillor says it's a county council job, it's not a city councillor job, and I didn't agree with that. I thought probably it's every councillor responsibility. It doesn't matter if you're a city councillor or you're a county councillor, because when we go to door, they don't know, they don't care about, if I'm a county councillor or city councillor, what my role is, what I can do. They just talk about the issues. That's why, like, I've seen pothole in Cambridge pretty much everywhere. It was getting worse and worse. That's why I did a demonstration on Queen Edith Roundabout. Probably have seen it, and we had like a lot of medias involved as well. The reason I did it is not just for me, for the people of Cambridge, because I thought when I've been told like we are not getting funds from the central government, my answer to them was, what are you doing? Why can you not get a fund from the central government? What is stopping you to get it? So that's why I said, look, my point was to them was, yeah, if you can't get a fund, and if anyone's stopping you to getting the fund, you have to name and shame them. Because them people are responsible for the people. Their people will be there for five years. If they don't do a good job, then 4 or 5 years, then they'll be out. Then new people will be coming in to replace them. But then city will stay there. So we have to look after the city. That's why, as I said, pothole, I did demonstration. Full demonstration.
Okay, Amanda. So you would be a city councillor and an activist as well, even though it's not necessarily, there wouldn't be a relevant committee necessarily in the city. But yes, point taken. Amanda, your thoughts on this thorny, holy issue?
Yeah, thank you. Potholes have always been a big issue in politics, addressed to city councillors and county councillors. This year it's been about 9 out of 10 of the complaints that people have raised on the doorstep when I've been canvassing. It is worse than usual this year, and it's no trivial matter. I've lost count of the number of people who've told me they've had damage to their cars this year, and of course, for somebody on a bike, it's probably going to be a personal injury too. It's very much high up on the agenda of the administration at the county council, which has the budgets to look after the roads. It has been worse this year because we had 2 months of almost non-stop rain, which makes it very difficult to do the repairs when it's raining and makes them less likely to last. But I have to say, and it's a shame that the Conservative candidate isn't here to discuss this, but when the Conservatives went out of power from Cambridgeshire, there was an £800 million deficit in road maintenance. The Lib Dem administration has put more funding in to try to deal with the backlog, £80 million this year, and they've doubled the budget for preventative repairs. I understand from the Chair of Highways that there's been 15,000 potholes done just this year, but ultimately the council can't fill that backlog the way it needs to be done because it's been built up to be so large. We do need funding from central government, but unfortunately it's not just a case of asking for it and getting it. Our MPs have been calling in Parliament for more funding. It's part of a national problem. Central government has the funding, county council has the budget, but not enough budget for the needs of the roads to bring them up to scratch. Okay. As a city councillor, there's nothing we can do about funding. The best we can do is to support the county council in what it is doing, make sure that all the potholes that we notice are reported, because county council can't always know exactly about all the potholes. There is a new reporting system. You can go online on the county council website If you're standing with a phone, take a picture of the pothole, mark on the map where it is, and you'll then be able to see what progress there's been. So that's one thing that we can all do. Make sure that they're reported, and carry on campaigning for more funding from government. I'm sorry if that sounds like passing the buck, but that is the fact.
No, as we said
from.
at the very outset, it's not something that's part of the City Council responsibilities, but very interested to hear your point of view. Shane, your thoughts?
Okay, potholes. In the interests of cross-party collaboration, cooperation, there was a very interesting letter a few weeks ago in the national press from a former Labour city councillor in Cambridge. And he was pointing out what I hadn't realised, which is that the bigger and heavier a vehicle it is, it does far, far more damage, creating potholes and making those that are already there much worse. And it isn't just, one of the big problems is these so-called SUVs, which I think something like 20% of all new cars last year that were sold were SUVs. And apparently the problem isn't just that if a vehicle is double, say, the weight of an ordinary one, it doesn't just do double damage, it does something like 20 times the damage, which I certainly had no idea what off. I mean, and there's one thing that does occur to me is that if City Council could simply tell us those facts, educate us about it. And again, I think in one or two boroughs in Wales, where they've got residence parking schemes, they're charging people more for SUVs because they're doing more damage. If we could perhaps do this sort of thing, that might make a big difference. Because otherwise, presumably most of these potholes are being created by big, heavy SUVs, and however fast we try and fix them, the problems are going to get worse and worse because they're being created more and more.
Good, okay. I don't want to turn the next 10 minutes into complaints about potholes, given that we can't do a huge amount about them in this forum, but I do want to open up the floor a little bit, so allow me, if you'd introduce yourself as well.
My name is Simon Hall. Have you noticed that the worst potholes are on bus routes?
I'm Ingrid Morgan. I'm the Development Officer for Queen Edith Community Forum. I'd like to know, are there any antisocial behaviour issues in Queen Edith? And if so, that and crime, how would you address them?
Thank you. Succinct question. So, antisocial behaviour issues in the ward, and how would you propose to address them? Shane, can I start with you on that one?
I think I'd agree with what our Labour candidate friend was saying, is that one of the big problems is that the youth clubs have been closed down, community centres have been closed down, sports facilities have been closed down, playing fields have been sold off, open spaces are in disrepair. There ain't much for teenagers to do except hang around in groups and, look worrying. So I think anything the City Council could do, as colleagues have been saying, trying to put things into the stuff that teenagers can do, stuff that younger people can do, places that can go to, pressing central government to try and reinstate. I mean, there used to be people who were youth workers. I don't think there are anymore. It's like health visitors, midwives, just all these years of so-called austerity, and it's gone. So we just have to kind of campaign nationally to try and get more money for those and do what we can locally.
Amanda, what can we do to stamp out antisocial behaviour in our ward as city councillors?
Yeah. I have been aware of, and I've been talking to people as I've been canvassing during this election, also just living in the area for so many years, that we've had a lot of problems at the Bagram Road Park and Ride sites, which is probably well known to residents who live in that particular area, with people gathering late at night for parties, playing loud music, etc., and sort of come along and then go away again. It's quite difficult to enforce that because of the unexpected nature. There's also been some problems which somebody was talking to me only last night about problems at Nightingale Park with people taking drugs and vandalism, and reporting it to the council, not getting the response that they would have liked to see. Also, it's really horrible things like people vandalising children's play equipment. We've had that in Godwin Way Park and Cherry Hinton Hall at times. The City Council does have antisocial behaviour workers who liaise with the police to address these problems, but there have been cuts to the number of people working on that, which I think is a mistake, because if an area is not safe, then it's not really open to everybody. And I contest the idea that we should just be looking at the young people who are doing the antisocial behaviour. You know, certainly in the case of what's happening at Park and Ride, it can't be just young people there. People are driving age and above. So, you know, I think it's something that affects us all, but it's not right to demonise one particular age group.
So, solutions?
I think more support for antisocial behaviour officers at the council would be a good start. And again, community facilities and the growth of the community means that people feel part of that community and therefore are perhaps more likely to respect it and behave well.
Mary, if I can hand the microphone to you. I mean, you've talked a lot about the things that you're passionate about and involved in.
Yes.
Do these play into this in some way?
I would say same things against sports.
I mean, the solution rather than the problem, just to clarify.
Yeah, solution, as I say, sports can bring everybody together. Of course, like young people, they're pretty much everywhere you see young people are doing this antisocial behavior thing. So if you organize more sports events, then we can bring them together, then you will see like they will have a fresh mind, then they will stop thinking about doing this antisocial behavior. Because I have seen it, and as I said, in my community I have seen it. A lot of people used to do this, now they have completely changed. Now they're pretty much into sports. Only thing they understand now is football, cricket and badminton.
Okay, very good. Yes, Chair.
My name's Claire, I'm the Chair of Queen Edith Community Forum. My question for the three of you is, what would you do to work with the Queen Edith Community Forum to make the community better for all the residents in Queen Edith?
Anybody want to jump in and start that? I'm not going to predict an order. Amanda, you're looking very keen.
Well, I've actually been on the community forum myself. In fact, when it started, it was composed of councillors and council officers and local police and teachers. It was about 30 years ago. Now run by members of the community, which is fantastic. But you know, I'd be very happy to play more of a role in it again. Councillors, of course, can support the forum quite well by applying for grants for particular activities of the forum, making sure that the forum is aware of what funding is available. And also councillors usually have good networks for getting information out, so they can help to publicise events that the forum is doing. We are really very, very lucky in Queen Edith with the forum that we have, which puts on a range of events. There's social events and community events. I think the one that a lot of us really enjoy is the skip day, where we come along and we try out new things. We have a swap and sale, which brings everybody together as well as helping us all to be more sustainable. So, you know, if I am elected, then I'd be very happy to talk to the forum about how I can best help.
Maruf, how would you participate with the forum to make this an even nicer community to live in?
Well, first of all, I'll have a meeting with the team to find out what they actually need, what sort of things they require. Especially, of course, funding will be a big issue, I believe. Then I'll try to make sure they get enough fund from the City Council. And also, I know I have seen you guys do sports as well. You do run sports like when the school holidays. But I'll try to do it especially try to help you to organize more events. As I said, I have a football coach, cricket coach, and badminton coach. I know them, so probably they can help you to organize more sports events. And also, I'd like to help you to organize more events for our older residents so that they can stay connected rather than sitting at home just spending time watching telly. So I want to make so those sort of things. Of course, there are lots of things probably you can do, and probably if anything I can help you. Of course, definitely. I'm young, as I said. Probably I'm doing lots of community work. I'm a community activist rather than a politician, I would say. So this is the sort of things I usually do.
Thank you, Shane.
What would I do? Try and listen to people talk, listen some more. As you probably can, I quite like talking, but I'd try and listen to people as much as I could, meet people, go walk about in Queen Edith with people on the forum, stand on street corners, look at traffic, look at how spaces are being used, look at what's going on at different times of the day, and try and listen.
Okay, we are coming close to 8:30 when I want to release you and get you to do a little bit of voting as well. Are there any more burning questions in the room that people would like a quick fire round answer to from the panel? Something that perhaps we haven't touched on yet? And as I say, very strictly, given that we've got limited time, so just a couple of quick questions if anybody has anything else that they feel is a burning issue that we haven't yet addressed. Anybody? Okay, Ingrid, you've got another burning question. Go for it.
I live in an area with a lot of key workers, and they really can't afford to live here, and they need to because the length of their shifts, 13 to 17 hours. So is there anything for the future for housing opportunities for key workers and carers?
So that's an affordable housing question, I think, for a lot of our key workers. I suspect we're thinking of places like Addenbrooke's Hospital. In a couple of seconds each, any thoughts on what you as a potential city councillor could bring to bear to up the amount of affordable housing that we have so that our key workers can live closer to where they actually work and provide those services to us? I'm not going to stipulate an order, but as you go.
Well, thank you very much. This is, as I said, when I started talking, I did talk about it. Affordable house. And of course, I think probably in Queen Edith we have some. I think I can't remember that street. I think probably it's on Bulldog Avenue. I think, council has built some sort of cheap houses, I would say. Not talking about just a cheap. I'm not sure who
Charity.
Was it? Charity. Yeah, that's the thing. So those, of course, if charity can build it, then council can afford it. So of course we have I think we have a land. So before we do anything, as I said to you before, we need to make sure our locals stay local. So that's how only way you can do it is talk to council and make sure council build affordable houses.
Amanda?
Thank you. When we're building houses, we need to ensure that we have our 40% of affordable housing built in to the housing that's built, and more flexibility about the type of way people pay, mixed ownership schemes. Good. Also support for the private rented sector. Getting a place to rent in Cambridge, from what I've heard, is almost as difficult as buying a property. You sometimes get about 10 people doing viewings for one particular flat with really, really high deposits. I think that's where the City Council can come in with housing advice and support to people who are actually quite vulnerable, perhaps not very experienced in knowing what their entitlements are. So there's the cheaper houses to buy, support for renters, and also, when we're building houses, we need to make them energy efficient, as I've said before, to bring down energy costs, because that not only reduces our climate change impact, but it also has an economic effect and makes it more affordable for people to live.
We'd like to see much less emphasis on big sort of 3-4 bedroom detached houses and much more emphasis on smaller units, more affordable, less expensive. I'm not going to say cheaper, they're not cheaper, but less expensive. And I mean, housing is a terribly difficult problem, but something else, you're looking at empty homes, there's quite a lot of empty homes and flats across Cambridge. I know there is an empty homes unit at the City Council, but just working really hard on trying to get those back into, being lived in. Something else that is some councils elsewhere have done is, because we have such a low amount of council housing, because of it all having been sold off with the right to buy, not all, but a lot of it. I know some councils have looked at actually just, as well as building, actually just trying to buy council houses back when they come on the market and reinstating them as council housing. So that would be something else to think about.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm gonna set the panel a very quick challenge, which is going to take 45 seconds. I'm going to ask them each just to have 15 seconds of concluding words that they would like you to take away when you're standing there with or sitting there with your ballot paper. I'm going to do it in the reverse order that we started, which is actually Shane, Amanda, and Maruf. I'm going to give you literally 15 seconds because we're over time. Why should we vote for you?
The main thing I want people to do is just vote and encourage your friends and families to vote. We have such low turnouts in local elections. I was going to say I don't care who you vote for. I mean, I do care. It'd be lovely if you voted Green, but please just vote and encourage other people to vote. And we've got 6 Green Party councillors. It would be great to have more.
Thank you, Shane. Similarly, in 15 seconds, Amanda, a quick thought to leave us with.
Queen Edith is my home. I've served on both the city and the county councillors, so know the ward well. I've got the experience of the councils and how to get things done for local people. If you really like me, I can offer you commitment and experience to keep Queen Edith a great place to live.
Thank you. Perfect 15 seconds. Maruf, 15 seconds.
I believe local councillors should be true community champions. People who understand local issues, have clear path to fix them, and bring real energy to the role. This isn't just talk, have taken action, and I'm ready to do even more. With your support, we can continue improving our community together. That's why I hope you're going to support me.
Thank you very much. So, very many thanks. Thanks to our panellists, thanks for them sticking to the rules, and thanks for them answering your questions, which were super interesting. So thank you to you for participating, sending your questions in. Thanks to our hosts here tonight. Thanks, of course, to the forum, with all the team, many of whom are here, highlighted by their gorgeous pink t-shirts, who do a great job, an amazing job, and it's all voluntary, and they bring something super special to this ward and make it a great place to live in. So thank you very much to them, obviously. I thank you to the technical team for keeping us talking to each other, but most of all, thank you to all of you for being here. As Shane was saying, go out and vote.